Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian, and welcome to Season 8. I can't believe we made it to Season 8.
Season 8, which I'm still going to call Civil Gore Takes Manhattan. I'm sorry. Even though you moved, I'm still calling it Civil Gore Takes Manhattan.
Figures I had to go, literally, the year where we could have done that.
I know.
The entire year.
Maybe we should call it Civil Gore Leaves Manhattan. There you go.
There you go. Well, I mean, considering Jason was really never in Manhattan. So
True.
But did you see, actually, I think it was funny we said that because the director, I think, went out and spoke on it on Twitter. He said something where he said, he goes, there was a lot more scenes in Manhattan. There was way more. But when the film finally got greenlighted and the budget got approved, there was no way they could do it. So other than the couple of scenes that were obviously Manhattan, they obviously shot it in Vancouver, I think, which is just, they tend to be a replacement Manhattan for a lot of movies. But they said the whole thing with the boat was expanded because that was an easier thing to do. And I'm like, it would have been interesting to see Jason walking through, but at some level too, you think about it, would it have made sense? Literally, could he just walk through? It's bad enough he passed by a bunch of people that he didn't kill. So it's
I know. Well, I'm going through now. Anna and I have gotten into a habit of watching horror movies together at least 2 to 3 times a week, and we were gonna start the Final Destination series, and she had bought us matching horror movie shirts to wear, and they were Friday the 13th shirts. And I said, well, Anna, have you ever seen the Friday the 13th series? And she said, no, I don't think so. And so I said, well, which would you rather watch, Final Destination or Friday the 13th? And she said, well, how many is in each one? Of course, I told her there's 12 movies in Friday the 13th. She was like, well, let's do that one. I want to do the one that has the most. So we've been watching Friday the 13th series for the first time for her. Every night, and we've gone through part 1 and part 2 so far. And
but it's pretty good because Peacock's got their series coming out, so she'll be ready for it now.
Yeah. And I was a little concerned because she's 14, and I'm thinking there are some sexual situations and stuff, but she's not she's not completely clueless. She's gone through the stuff at school, so it's not like she doesn't know this stuff. And I was thinking, when I watch these movies, I was 12 or 13.
Oh God,
so,
yeah. I'm trying to think. I was younger. I think I was 9 and 10.
Yeah, I was I watched these movies a lot younger than she was. So I was like, you know what? Look, if it gets too crazy, I might fast forward. But so far, it really hasn't been that bad. So
yeah, no, I mean, there's some that later on get up. Maybe there'll be a break where she'll mature a couple of years before you get to those. I don't know if you can keep the pace of watching them so fast, but
some of the stuff in in 5 was a little.
Oh, that was 5, which is borderline. That's borderline softcore. And what's it like? I think Jason Goes to Hell. There's some graphic.
Yeah, so I may have to screen some of those later ones, but 1 and 2 there was nothing really at all. So
yeah.
We're
and plus part 2 has our good friend in there, Lauren Marie Taylor. Right,
yes, which I pointed out.
That didn't make you the cool dad, saying you knew her?
Well, it was funny because I was like, no, you watch her. She's going to have brown panties. And Anna's like, what are you talking? I was like, just trust me. She's going to have these ugly brown panties. And so after she sees it, she goes, well, Daddy, how long has it been since you've seen this movie? And I said, well, not that long, maybe a year since I've watched it last. And she said, and so the only thing you remembered from it were those brown panties? And I was like, no, I interviewed Lauren Marie Taylor. That's why the brown panties were on my mind, because she laughed, she joked about them so much.
Well, plus did you tell her she brings them to the conventions and
yeah. And I was like, it's a whole, the brown panties, a whole fan thing. It's a whole thing. That's why it's not that was the only thing I remembered out of the movie, but it was kind of funny. Watching them through her eyes is so funny. Because, and I've already told this to the text feed, Brian, but I'll tell it for the listeners. But she goes, Daddy, how many movies are in this franchise? I said, well, there's 12 if you consider Freddy versus Jason and you consider the remake. And she said, okay. And do they all take place with Jason killing camp counselors in a camp? And I said, well, mostly, you've got, Jason, in part 8, he goes on a boat, he goes to Manhattan, and part 10, he goes to space. And Freddy versus Jason is a little bit different, but I was like, yeah, for the most part, yeah. And she said, well, that's very formulaic. I was like, well, I can't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I can't disagree with that. That's what they are. So I don't know if I don't know if she was asking that question because she's getting a little bored with it already, or I don't know. But she sounds like she's committed. Like she sounds like she almost like she said. I think her exact words were, "Daddy, I have to watch these. Like I have to watch these because these are famous."
Well, think about it though. The next one, because you also, like I do, have that great box set. You can watch it in 3D, like the old the standard 3D glasses.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So that might
be
like
fun.
Right off the bat, like kind of get her enthused. And and then once part 4 comes, which is so like at one point was like the big one that everyone like had on their list as the best one, that's coming up. So I think what's good is like she's kind of got like even if she's starting to wane just a bit now, she'll be reinvigorated with the 3D version.
Yeah.
Part 4 with Corey filming because now you're introducing someone like kind of her age in it.
Oh yeah, you remember when you watched it that age? Like you loved Corey Feldman. Like that was the best thing ever. That there was a kid fighting Jason. Like that was the
and then
coolest thing.
technically 5 has a kid too. It's got Dudley in it from Different Strokes. So you got like the kid. You got 2 kids in there, and then she'll probably love 6 because everybody loves 6.
I love 6.
Yeah, 6 is one of my favorites, and then 6 has the kids actually in there, so there's like more stakes involved. So I think she'll be and you could tell her like, look, part 7 we met this actress at the horror con. So I think she'll be there for the whole thing. She'll be there for the long haul.
Well, and I think Amy Steele's coming to the Carolina Fear Fest, which we're going to try to go to in May.
Oh,
and
nice.
so now that she's seen part 2, I told her, I was like, now you can meet Amy Steele and you know who she is, right? Because you've watched part 2. So I think she's a little bit more... I think I excited her a little bit, So.
Well, and I bet you if we reached out to Lauren Marie, she would probably send a nice little message to Anna. I bet you we could get her to do that.
Yeah.
She's one of the nicest people we've ever met. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. But anyway, I guess we should get to we're gonna do like a little kind of a short first chop because we have a lot of stuff going on in this episode.
Yeah.
So here is our kind of little tiny first chop. All right, Brian, I've watched, as you guys know, this is the start of season 8. We've watched a bunch of stuff since we took our break. We're not going to talk about all of it. I'm just going to pick one to talk about. I watched a lot of great movies, and I may talk about some of these on another episode. I watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I watched Saw X, and I watched Polaroid, were the big 3. I want to talk about, I guess we'll talk about Saw X because that one's been kind of the most recent on everybody's mind. And I have been, as you guys know, a person getting tired of the Saw franchise. I didn't like Jigsaw. I didn't like the one before the Spiral one. I didn't like any of those. So I've been burned out on the Saw franchise for a while. And I kept hearing everybody go, "Oh, Saw 10's good. Like this one's actually good. This one's actually good." I'm like, okay. I'm not gonna not watch it. And man, I loved it. I was genuinely surprised, and obviously, the reason why is because Tobin Bell's back.
Yeah, and he's really like Tobin Belling it in this,
Yeah, like he's like he goes full Tobin Bell, which normally you would never do, but in this case it works because he's awesome, and
plus it really finds a way to you thought you knew all you need to know about him. But I think you learn even more about this, and I didn't think after 9 movies plus that the spin-off essentially you could do that. Like how could you possibly still not know about this character?
Well, and it was brilliant. It's a brilliant piece of not only marketing to bring him back, but to fit it into the timeline in the way they did. Yeah, I thought was a really brilliant way to fit him into the timeline without trying to make him look younger. Without trying to, I mean, they didn't. What was that movie where they put the hat on, like a baseball cap on him to make him look younger? Like, it was so ridiculous.
Yeah,
but this one,
I don't remember anymore.
This one, he didn't have to, he didn't have to look significantly younger. He could get by playing his current age.
Yeah.
Even though takes place between Saw 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, like Shawnee Smith definitely looked older. I'm glad they didn't try and do it because it didn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Well, to the fans, they don't care. They accept these characters as they are. It's like that Orphan sequel that was so fantastic.
Yeah, which was another one which you didn't see coming and didn't expect, and
they could have tried. I mean, they could have really tried to like de-CGI or CGI her face or whatever. They didn't. They just said, you know what, screw it. She's an older actress, but she's playing this character, and we're just going to go with it. And that's how this was here, and I had no problem with it whatsoever. But Tobin Bell just, oh my God, he carried this whole entire movie, and he's truly the heart and soul of the Saw franchise. And the minute I saw this movie, I was like, this is why I've been so turned off of the Saw films for so long, is because I missed him. He was the heart and soul.
And you know what I think was so good about this movie again is because, like any franchise, you find there's like a little thing that like seems to capture the audience. Like in a slasher, it's all in Friday the 13th, it's all the creative kills that he does. Same with this one. This fell into that trap, no pun intended, where it was like all about the craziest traps you can find in the craziest situation. This, they kind of went back to its roots to tell the good story. The traps were great in this. But that wasn't the selling point of this film. And in fact, that like the one marketed trap was like in the opening of the movie, like the poster and the thing was the opening, and they're like, it almost a way of the filmmakers telling you, okay, here's what we marketed, here's what you want, but there it is, what's out of the way. Now we're going to tell a really good story, and we're going to let Tobin take it and go.
And did something crazy, which is make you feel such sympathy for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like I felt genuinely bad for him.
Yeah.
And I'm going, this guy's a bad dude. Like, he's not a good guy, but he's like breaking my heart over here.
Yeah, I mean, it was, you hear, and it's funny, they took these really, because you hear about these stories of these fake medical procedures and these fraudulent things like that, and to really put that into the Saw franchise makes a lot of sense, where his character later on, and how all this developed, and it's like, you can almost like, it almost like makes you like, I'm like, wow, I think I got to rewatch this entire series again now. It's like, because I want to see it again, and I want to watch it in chronological order. But now you got 11 coming out, which I hope they learn what was so good about this one and continue that, because I think this is a direct sequel to this one.
Yeah, from what I understand, I think you're right. And I think it's going to be. I'm hoping they capture the same. Like, this definitely was such a shot in the arm for the franchise. Like, I can't even describe how much better I feel about the Saw franchise now. It was like the boost of energy I needed.
Yeah,
and, I loved it.
And I kind of had it, like, I had bought it. I didn't get to see it in the theater, but I had bought it, and it was sitting in my digital, because it came with the digital copy, and it's sitting there, and I'm like, I could have watched it a bunch of times, but now that I'm doing this, the Jeff Whitmire, his infectious excitement is like so contagious, and so I decided to do that crazy 365, or in this case 366 this year, because of course I had to do it in a leap year, so I have one more extra movie to watch. I decided to do that, and I'm like, all right, I got to start watching movies. I can't like be that. I got to start watching things, especially things that like I should be watching already, and like. So I'm going to put this on, but I went in with very low expectations. Like, I went in thinking it's going to be a typical Saw movie. There's going to be a little fan service here and there because they brought Shawnee Smith back and this and that, and it's going to be that. Definitely was so far exceeded my expectations, like that. Like, I was like, actually, when I was done, I was like, wow. That was actually a really good. That's what all the Saw movies should have been like, because that had the heart of the first couple that, like, before they went off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great. You're right. It fits right in with those first. Like, you remember how good the first two Saw movies were, and it just fits right into there, which is perfect because it takes place between the two. So
yeah,
it's like a perfect nice little trilogy.
Yeah,
there that you can watch.
It's nice when a franchise can, like, that's lost its way, can find its way back by just going back to its roots. Nothing fancy. They just went back to the simple.
But go
John
back to the
Kramer
roots
story.
without fan service. Like, it
Right.
wasn't like Tobin Bell is not like, he's not like, doesn't have like a cameo in here for fan service. Like, he's an integral, like, he's the whole movie. He is the whole movie. Like, they really, they nailed it. I thought it was, great.
Definitely a high recommended, and it's probably right up there as my, like, next to the first and second one. It's like right there. It's
it's definitely in the top 3 for me.
Yeah, it's great, and I don't even know. It may exceed 2. In all honesty, I'm like, it's like I haven't seen 2 in so long.
Yeah,
so
that's how I am. I have to go watch. I have to go watch it back, but I can't imagine. Like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, I can't imagine 4, 5, 6, any of those like topping that one in my mind. Yeah. It's been a while, but we'll see.
Yeah, so I know Tim has some other ones, and I have some movies too that I saw, but I'm gonna just go because I've gone through already this year, not counting the movie, which we have a great interview for today, which is already one of my favorite movies of the year. I mean, I know it's early, but it's already it's up there. But one of the other ones that I discovered in this challenge, and I watched some good ones. I mean, some were expected to be great, some were expected to be, some were like, already been reviewed as pretty good and all that. But the hidden gem in the bunch in this first batch has got to be the one I saw Jeff Whitmire post about. And it was called Yellow Brick Road. It's kind of like, basically, I saw a perfect description of it. It's like they said, if you took Blair Witch, the original, but made it like a regular scripted narrative, not really a found footage, but it still has the feeling of a found footage, but while being a narrative.
See, I want to see this one so bad now because of your and Jeff's recommendation. Yeah. Like, this one's really high on my list.
Oh my god, you got it's on Tubi, so it's completely accessible for everyone. And what's so great about it, the lore of it is really cool. It's like this New England town, and it was these people. They did this walk up on a trail and disappeared. And it's basically this other group decides. It's like, that's why when I say it's typical found footage, like formula kind of thing, like, it's like this group goes to filmmakers and they hire all these people and they want to go up and figure out what the walk was all about. And it's got elements, like, a lot of people have compared it to Lost a little bit. There's that element in there. There's definitely some. I see why the Blair Witch comparison's there, and it's just very unnerving and brutal at times, and just like when I saw this, I literally thought it was, when I saw the thing Yellow Brick Road, and I'm like, oh, what is this? Some Wizard of Oz horror movie? Did it fall out of the public domain too? And
that's what I was thinking. That's why I've never watched it. I mean, I've seen this poster on Tubi multiple times, and I just passed it by.
Yeah, and David McHugh said he sent it to us a while ago, and I probably just looked at it and didn't think twice about it because I don't remember it, or I maybe looked at the poster and I just said, whatever, and but I'm trying to think back. I mean, I may vaguely remember him mentioning it, but he's always so good with a lot of recommendations, so it's like I just missed it in the jumble.
Well, sometimes we're like in the knee deep in screeners, like we're in a period of time where we just don't have time to watch everything, and it's easy to forget about that recommendation sometimes.
Yeah, and like we got some more today. Now I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that. Someone tweeted us about them, so I'm like, there's another 6 movies now I can put on my list to watch this year, because I still got a 340. What am I up to? I don't even know anymore. 20, 21. I don't know, whatever. 340 plus. I still got to get in there, but this one was a surprise. This one is a hidden gem if there ever was one. So, Tim, I'd say like that. Make that the next movie you watch. Literally, I think you'll.
Oh yeah, I'm going
because you love movies with that. It's all a cool lore to it and a cool story like that. I think you'll be. I'd be stunned if you were not like blown away by it.
Yeah, definitely. That one's definitely high on the list. Anything Jeff recommends instantly goes on the list because he's such a great cheerleader for these movies that you probably have not heard of, and he'll watch anything and find the gems out there that are out there. So
we returned the favor though. We got him to watch some good ones. Like
we do, we do.
The ones we
it's a mutual benefit. Between both of us.
Yeah, I think he's like a kindred spirit of ours. Like he's like we were meant to know him because I feel like this is like he's such an important part of like our watching things and the podcast in a way, and it's like
All right, guys, so we have a fantastic interview. We interviewed tonight Kyle BUTENHOFF and Dana Mackin, who Kyle was the writer and director and star of the new movie Laced, and Dana was the lead and producer on the movie, and they are just fantastic to talk to. We had just a wonderful interview tonight. We just had so much fun talking to them, and I thought it was a great interview because you really got the nuts and bolts of indie filmmaking and the challenges and what goes into it. And I love hearing that. You know, you hear it from us all the time how much we love to hear all the creativity that has to go into it. So I think you guys are really going to like this interview with Kyle and Dana about Laced.
And they're awesome too. They're just awesome people.
Yeah, they're very, very, very nice people. And like Brian was saying, he's like, I mean, I like the movie even more after meeting them because they're just so wonderful and so excited about, you know, this being their first feature film. So I think you guys.
And I think everyone will feel the same way. Once you hear the interview and you see the movie, you're gonna just like love the film and them. You can't help but not. You know, it's like.
Yeah. So here it is, our interview with Kyle and Dana. All right, guys. So we recently saw the thrilling new film Laced, and with us tonight, we are excited to have its writer, director, and star Kyle BUTENHOFF and star Dana MACKIN. So welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
I'm so stoked.
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming on. Like we were talking a little bit before we started recording, I watched the movie today. Absolutely loved it. The first question I had was about, you see a lot of description about this movie being full of Hitchcockian influences. I just read a great autobiography of Hitchcock called Hitchcock: A Life in Darkness and Light, I believe is the title of it. It was so I really have had Hitchcock on the brain lately. I've been watching Hitchcock movies, I've been going crazy. So Kyle, can you talk a little bit about your, that kind of influence from that angle on Laced?
Well, he's the master, man. Like in terms of, I've always been like a diehard thriller lover ever since I watched like Silence of the Lamb at 9 years old. So like thriller, then that makes you go in and explore like the whole golden age of thrillers with Hitchcock and just kind of like the classics, like Rope and Dial M for Murder and Rear Window, just like stuff that's really conducive to we don't have a lot of money, but we're trying to make a movie, one location, let's get the thrills, let's get the chills, you know what I mean? And so for this project in particular, we really were going for that like borderline, it could be a stage show, like thriller, really contained, really claustrophobic. It's all about what the camera doesn't see as much as what it does see, and making it was, I mean, obviously a challenge as any independent, production faces, but just actually a dream in terms of just kind of getting to relive what, inspired us about movies from the get-go.
Yeah, and Hitchcock was a master of budgeting. He kept his films under budget quite a bit. So that was really interesting to read about that. So, we have a lot of indie creators on, and I'm always impressed at what they can pull off with limited budgets, and especially when they're wearing a lot of hats like you did, Kyle. Which we have a question later on about
your hats,
that kind of thing, about your hats. Yes. But it's always very impressive. I love seeing the creativity that goes into getting these indie films made under a tight budget.
Yeah, it starts to get crazy. Like this, I mean, first of all, it starts with, homies coming in at extreme homie rates, you know what I mean? Like true professionals who are like, I'm scraping my rate for you, bud. And I'm like, yeah, I got you. Don't worry about it. And then, all of a sudden Dana's mom's coming in and she's like set decorating and she's just like, okay, so I was thinking the red curtains here. And I was like, that's lovely. I love it. And then, we're, I mean,
I was a makeup artist like way back in the day, and like doing gore makeup was like
nice.
Effect stuff is like one of my favorite things still to do, just as like an odd hobby that I like get really excited about. So I very casually was like, yeah, why not? Like, I'm a producer on the film too, so for me it was like just as important to stay on budget, right? And I'm like, yeah, I can do the makeup, I can take care of it. So in some of the most, I'm sure you guys know, which the bloodiest scenes where I'm like also having to act like at my highest level. And like, as soon as they hit cut, I'm like, the blood is drying, like spray down the blood. It was not hard to reach that level of like high intensity emotion and stress when I'm like simultaneously acting and then like trying to figure out all of that other stuff. But
I didn't even think about that, but like just going from full tears to just like, okay, how did that spray look? Did
yeah,
we...
Oh my gosh, yeah.
back on the blood spray. Yeah, it was quite a. But I mean, it's also like such a. This is like a lame thing to say, and something you can only say when it's done, right? Because at the time it's horrible, but it's like such a gift to like really get the most insane education just by necessity. Like you would never take on that many roles unless you had to, or you're a crazy person. And with that, I just feel, I don't know about Kyle, but like I've exited this so confident as a filmmaker. Like it can't, I mean, let's knock on some wood. It can't get harder than that, right? You know?
Well, yeah, and it was funny. As I was gonna say, Kyle, you already like kind of like surpassed Hitchcock in a way, because he usually just did a cameo and you were like in this thing almost the whole time. So, it's like you're already leveled up,
From your lips to God's ears, my friend.
Yeah.
But so the next thing I want to have, so this is probably a question you probably get asked all the time, and probably going to ask even more after this movie. But so, and this is no secret based off, you read the synopsis, you know what the plot is about. But so being a real life couple, was it weird to have to play the on-screen couple with the events of this film? You having to try and plot like this whole murder thing?
The murder plotting, none of that really, felt too out of character. No, I'm just kidding. But
I saw Kyle, like his eyes were like widening. He's like, no.
In general, it didn't like go too deep. The only part that was hard was the scene in which there's like that only time you notice that there might have been like physical violence, like that the audience sees it firsthand, when he grabs her wrist and there's that kind of like outburst of violence. At that point we were doing like nighttime shoots, so
we were doing day for night tenting the entire house, and then we were shooting on top of a mountain, and 40-mile-per-hour winds knocked down our tenting, so we had to switch from shooting during the day to shooting at 3:00 in the morning.
Yeah. And so at 3:00 in the morning, we're tired and like sensitive, and then he's like,
I'm also directing her.
So
she's sitting on my lap in the chair, and I'm like, on this one, I really need to feel a little bit more like, I don't know, just like maybe some slight terror. And she goes, "You're an asshole."
This is also, you guys have to remember, this was what, 6 months into our relationship?
Like, yeah, 8 months.
It was early, but for the most part, it was totally fine. That shooting that scene, at the end of it, we both kind of like looked at each other, like him like grabbing my arm and me having to like kind of experience as that character, like that fear of him. We weren't expecting, we actually like took a minute, which was, we never did that on this set. We like took a minute and like stepped outside and we're like,
I love you.
Everything's okay.
I love you. Hey, sorry.
Well, that scene in particular was so good because it was shot so close. The fact that you're on his lap and you're really intense on there made that scene even more powerful. And it was like you still met, like, I don't know if you framed that shot yourself, but that was a perfectly framed shot because you could like see just everything you needed to see, but still being tight. That was really cool.
I'm a big believer in storyboarding out everything. So everything was like to a T. That's honestly was my favorite part of the whole experience, like secretly, was just like listening to the pre-temp score and like making a little comic of like, ooh, and then this happens, like I'm such a, I say a sucker for the visual aesthetics. Others would say a control freak. But yeah, no, the tightness, me and my cinematographer who murdered it, Sam Robinson, spoke at length beforehand about wanting to really create that claustrophobic, tight frame, long lens type of shot paired with these kind of moving wides where we can have, we shot in 16 days. Like sometimes the action has to keep going. We have to combine 3 shots into one, So just kind of a I don't know how to put it, just like an even handing of both those extremes.
Yeah, no, it was extremely effective. That's the whole the visuals throughout this film are very, it's great, and because you already know you're in this like claustrophobic environment because you're in this one house. There's a snowstorm established, and it's like everything is done so perfectly like placed. Like all the things you need to know are done like just as you need to know them. And then on top of it, so you're really feeling the tension. Like I was getting like a little anxiety in there, just like through later on in the film when everything starts going a little haywire, and I'm like, just like, oh my God, I'm starting to get like that tension, and I'm not even involved in this thing. It's like, which is always a sign of a good movie if I can actually feel that tension, because I mean, Tim and I'll tell you, we've seen horror movies, I mean, countless, and to the point of where it takes a lot to get like that kind of reaction from us. And this one, like literally, you had me tense watching it. So it's definitely if it's not coming out that way, it's trying to be the best compliment I could give you guys.
Oh no, I love it. Thank you so much.
And also, I also think whenever you have a film that takes place entirely in one location, there's a challenge in keeping the viewer interested, because you're not switching up locations. And I had never had that issue with this film at all. Like I was never for a second bored with it. I mean, I thought it was great that you took this one location, and never for a minute did I feel like I'm trapped in here with these people and I can't, in a bad way. The claustrophobia is good in terms of tension, but it's not, I want to leave this movie because I'm bored.
Well, yeah,
which you do see, and there are some films out there, which I won't name, that you get that feeling,
Well, and the same time, what's great is you had such a cool set piece. Like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I mean, I know there's stuff going on there, but like at the same time, I'm like, he's sitting there, look at this in this nice cabin house thing. There's a great fireplace there. There's a shepherd's pie cooking in the background. You're getting a football game on. I'm like, this is what I want to do. It's like, not all the other parts, but that part.
On any other given night, it would have been
any other night in that house. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, like, the beginning, when like the first time we really had it all put together and we were able to watch it almost like a movie, the beginning was much more pleasant than I had anticipated, right? Because we did not shoot this in order at all, like even a little bit. So most days had something horrible, right? But like exactly what you're saying, like just those first few minutes, like he comes in with the beers and you're like watching football and you can like smell the casserole, it seems kind of nice, Malls. Like, what's going on, girl?
I know. I was like, did I get the wrong screener? This is like this is like a heartwarming Hallmark movie here. What's going on?
They have someone writing an article about us, and they were asking for screenshots that included both Kyle and I, or screenshots, stills rather, and we sent them to him, and he was like, "All of these look like rom-com." Right.
Because anything that was with like a two shot with me and Dana in it looks like me being like,
That's great.
That's awesome.
Sorry, this is a complete audio medium, and I just did pulled faces.
Yeah, it's okay. I you know how many times
we do that all the time. Yeah,
because we forget. Because normally we'll record over Skype, and we'll just do the voice. But with interviews, we like to have the visual. But I'll forget sometimes, and I'll be sitting there like audio saying, "Well," and I'm doing this whole thing, and I'm like, nobody can see that. Yeah.
This next question we originally had for Zach, but I did kind of still want to talk about it because Brian and I were talking earlier before we started recording how much we enjoyed his character. So can you guys talk a little bit about his character and kind of how you approached, when you were writing him, because he's such an integral part of this movie and ended up being one of our favorite characters in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's two levels. One, when I was writing it, I knew that Austin's character was going to be kind of like this breath of fresh air into this kind of decaying atmosphere where like, oh, this is a guy who has no clue what's going on. So you get to see, jokes, you get to see like some levity. And then on top of that, the brother-sister relationship between Austin and Molly is like the heart of the whole thing. Like, this is what we're all fighting for in the end. If everything that you've seen so far is the bad, this is the good. Just kind of like that daylight that just suddenly, pierces through the movie. That's how I imagined it, right? And then when Zach came in and auditioned for that part, I was like, oh, this is also going to be a shot of adrenaline. Like, this guy is going to come in like, like a Bronco, I mean, you know, pardon the pun, just like
Wow.
galloping.
That was good.
Galloping through
Wow.
the middle of this, you know, this house, and just like it felt like we couldn't even, when he was doing takes. I mean, he's phenomenal in the movie. I love him so much. When he's doing takes, he's like walking off and like picking up random things, and like it's just like what, like you had no idea what he was gonna do, and it just all cut together so beautifully. So I can't speak enough about what Zach Tinker has done in this movie.
Totally.
Frankly.
Totally.
Yeah, that was pretty great the way you snuck Bronco in there, though. That was well done. I like that.
Honestly, completely unplanned, and I regretted it immediately.
Really disappointing. I'm just
Yeah, no, he was actually really good because he's such a likable character, and he kind of comes out of nowhere because the film gets so intense, and you basically establish that he's on his way, but you forget about it because you get so roped into the rest of the story that when he came in, I'm like, oh my God, that's right. He's been telling his friend, which you don't even know at that point. Hopefully, this is not too much of a point. You don't even know that he's a brother in there, and he comes in. I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about him. They totally said he's on his way, and that is a true testament to how well this film works. I think because you get so roped into the plot at that point that you forget that he's on his way.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, he was impressive. So about the next thing, I want to go back to we touched upon the setting in the house. Like, how did you find that location? Because that location is incredibly impressive.
So it's in the middle of nowhere in Colorado, and it is large enough that it had the top floor, because this is during COVID that we shot this, like during deep COVID,
Okay.
right? So we were able to shoot on the top floor and then house everyone, the skeleton crew and the cast, on the lower level, right? And then there was almost like kind of like a makeshift kitchen that we were able to do on the lower level. And this was all shot in Colorado. Kyle always likes to do the little trivia that the nearest, the nearest population is a prison, like 45 minutes away. It was very much middle of nowhere, and it was perfect because we wanted a place where we could really have a bubble. That way because we just did not have the budget for a COVID emergency. Like if something like that happened, we would have been
SOL.
That would have been that, so it worked really amazingly. We were up there for how many weeks?
16. So it was 16 days shooting,
days.
And then we did about a week of prep at the location, and then maybe about like 5 days afterwards of like taking everything down and stuff like that.
Exactly. So it was a perfect location because we were able to do it all in one spot.
Yeah, I said this to some. I think I've said this before too. So people listening to the podcast are probably like, "All right, how many times is going to say this?" But one of the fascinating things to me is, I mean, with through COVID, is the way that once films were allowed to go back into production again, how creative the filmmakers got. Like, and at some level, it's like I wouldn't be surprised if like years later they're gonna, there's techniques that have been developed during this whole sequence where you had the film under this bubble, and people are gonna use that always now, and they're gonna say, oh well, it was because we were forced to, but now look, we realize this is so much better. I always find that so impressive that through all that you guys were able to, and other filmmakers too were able to just find a way to get it done.
That was something that my producer Matt Ramey, who also edited the film, pointed out to me. We were going through the end, credit crawl, and then he paused it and he pointed to the screen and he pointed to the role of COVID supervisor, and he goes, the fact that that's in this movie is going to be such a badge of honor like years from now.
Totally.
Where we're going to look back and as kind of like a creative community and be like, hey, you know what, even when the world looked like it was ending, like we still created, you know what I mean? Like we still were like, oh, we can still make stuff, We
also had to, like, we had just been sitting on our hands, and like we all as artists and filmmakers just felt like kind of you start to be like, oh, like of course this is the first thing to go, and we were just sitting around like waiting for something to happen, and we're
both actors traditionally.
Yeah, we started making this movie as actors only, and then everything just kind of exploded from there. So it's been quite a journey, you know, but yeah, I mean, of course we had to innovate. Every industry had to innovate. And there are things about this film that I think are amazing, and things about this film experience that I think are amazing that wouldn't have happened if we weren't put in this very strange timeline.
Yeah, we've seen so many good movies come out of that period, especially with, you know, a lot of the interviews we get are from filmmakers who created during that whole pandemic, like, and they're just now getting, you know, released. And I mean, I can't count the number of great movies we've seen come out of that. But that kind of ties into my next question, which is our hats question, and it's for both of you because you were both wearing many hats. So did you find it challenging, or did you find that, or did you prefer having that level of control of being able to take on multiple roles?
You know, I always say I through this process I've found that like I have a deep love of like directing, and it's definitely something I'm going to revisit. And obviously acting is like my number one. But when I'm laying down as a dead body and I have a hand monitor like leaning into the budget, trying to watch the wonder that's going on behind me, I'm like, God, maybe I could have planned this a little better in terms of just like having both of this happen at the exact same time. Like directing and acting, anytime I see it on like on a main any type of level, I'm like, hats off to them, because it is like operating on so many different levels. And yeah, I mean, like just on a technical level, everything that I was in took twice the amount of time because I had to go watch playback. You know, so when you're working on an indie budget, like that's time is the most valuable resource that you have. That being all said, wouldn't trade it. Wouldn't trade it.
I think that, you know, I produced this at first out of necessity. I was like, oh, we're not going to like pay somebody else, so I'm going to do it. Let's do it. And very quickly was like, oh, I love this. I am a planner. I am like a people person. I am like a coordinator. So, you know, for me, it was like this incredibly pleasant surprise to learn that like this is another huge part of my like filmmaking passions and filmmaking journey. And you know, I'm a theater kid originally. That's how Kyle and I met, actually, was in high school theater 12 years
cool.
ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
We didn't start dating 12 years ago. We started dating 4 years ago. But you know, kind of that element of like having your hands in like every bit of the project and like watching it all swirl together and then being able to see it happen in post-production, all of that was amazing. I will say that like I was really blessed to have Kyle and our producer Matt Ramey during the filming process. Like when we were on set, they did a really amazing job of like letting me be an actor, and I didn't even have to ask for that. Like, you know, the minute the cameras came out, like they were like, okay, it's time for you to focus on this role. And it was, sometimes I wanted to not, like sometimes I wanted to focus on production just because that's like an easier thing to focus on than like the darkness that is this character, right? But yeah, it was like overwhelming and hard, but also like we learned so much. We're so lucky.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you guys did enjoy that, because the selfish me wants you to keep doing that and making all these other great films, because I know Tim and I know we're like you keep making stuff, we'll be watching it, because it's especially if you guys are all part of it like that, you know, it's great team you make.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We think so too, you know.
So now I have probably our most serious question to ask you. Whose recipe for the shepherd's pie was that? Because that looked delicious, and that's one of my favorite things to eat. So I need to find out who made that, Adam.
So I wrote shepherd's pie in there because it's one of my favorite meals as well. You know,
Nice.
like, oh, wouldn't it be so special if like, you know, one of this most like wholesome and hearty thing that, you know, you eat on like a cold winter's day is actually the thing that like, you know, ends you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have not had shepherd's pie since
Oh,
that
no.
because what we had to do is we made the shepherd's pie and then froze it, like, so like it could continue on throughout the shooting schedule and we can get different shots of it and stuff and that keep continuity. And then during that scene, I'm eating chunks of ice and like,
Oh, no.
like melted 2-week-old shepherd pie. Like, it was one of the top 10 most disgusting things. Like, originally, I'm sure it was beautiful, but we also had to like sprinkle weird stuff in there. Like, it was a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, my mom also, like Kyle said, like my mom had her hand in this movie. So like shout out Mavis, because like we shot in Colorado, she lives in Colorado, and I basically was like, call off work, we need help. And which I, at first I was like, we shouldn't talk about how my mom helped a lot in this movie, but like she did. It's okay. Like she helped.
Oh, it's awesome.
She made shepherd's pie for us. Like it was one of the first meals that we had on set, and it was delicious. But yes, Kyle, basically she made 2, and one of them was for a meal for the cast and crew, and then the other one was the one that we kept freezing
the show pie.
And heating and freezing.
It was made on the first day of production and then eaten on the last day of production.
I also was vegetarian at the time, and that has just like completely disintegrated in the last like year and a half. But at the time I was actually, I was like heavily vegetarian leaning vegan. And so if you notice, like I only ever eat the potatoes on the top, like or like eat the meat underneath, because we weren't going to make a vegetarian version. Like it was just too much,
That was good acting then, because you could not tell that you were just you're being sly on it. But yeah, they it's funny too, because like you even mentioned that in there. You're like, I think you say the line almost like, oh, I thought it'd be nice for Snowden, nice warm shepherd's pie, and I'm like, see, this is great. This is the best night ever until but.
Let's be nice at first.
Yeah, things change throughout the course of a movie. You can't help it.
So you guys have had some really positive reviews, and the film's been doing great at festivals. So do you have like some of your favorite reactions, or maybe least favorite reactions, or comments or questions you've received as feedback to the movie?
Oh God, I don't know. I've honestly just been so like just touched about how much the horror community specifically has like kind of circled around this movie, just because like, it's a thriller. Like it's definitely not like your traditional capital H horror. But when we went to Panic Festival, I mean, that was like one of the horror festival in Kansas City. That was one of my favorite times watching this movie, because I watched it with the crowd there, and everyone, it was like, kind of like hooting and hollering at the screen, and like everything was just playing on 11, and it was just like such a beautiful moment, and of just finding this community that like I quite frankly didn't really know was there, and being like, and just kind of being accepted by them has been like just really awesome. As just as a person and as a filmmaker.
I think we didn't know how much of or I didn't know, I don't know, maybe you did, how much of a filmmaker's film this is, which is the best compliment that you can receive. I think that there are absolutely some people who watch it and like just don't really get it. And like, I think that that's totally fair and valid if it's not your cup of tea, because it is a specific thing that Kyle has done here. And the people who recognize it and recognize like what it is he's doing, I think are people who are super passionate about like filmmaking, especially early horror. So it's like Kyle said, like having other filmmakers and true horror fans like tell us what they see is really exciting. I recently read a review. It was like literally the only, you knew I was going to bring this up. It's like, I really so many, nothing but kind things have been said about my acting. And then this one review said that I brought a unique desperation to my acting. And I was like, put it on my grave. Put it on my grave. I was like, Dana was uniquely desperate. And I'm like, that's true.
Well, no, I mean, I would like give like the highest level of. I thought the cast was, you all were just amazing in it. I mean, I thought that, and if that's not there in a movie like this, like if the acting isn't there, it's not going to work. And so you guys hit every point you needed to make. You had like even the little bits of, the warmth and the comedy and more the terror parts a little bit. It all works well, and it's like it feels real. And I think that's like, I mean, if I could give like a positive review on this like that, that's one of the things I'd say. I said it felt like legit. And I mean, I don't know if that's, it's coming from me. I'm just, what am I? But as a viewer, I was totally like enamored with the movie. So I'm like, and I like, what was cool about it is because when I saw it say thriller, I'm like, okay, well, usually thrillers, there's always a horror element in it. So there was definitely, I think that's why it was embraced so much by the horror community, because being a part of it, they are extremely an inclusive community and usually really, really supportive. So it's like once they got you, you're not getting out of it now. You guys are in there. We're good.
Yeah. That's nice that you said it felt legit.
When you made it for as little as we did, legit is the best compliment.
Really
well, no, I hope that doesn't sound like I'm like, like it's
no,
okay.
No.
Okay.
This is our first feature film, and
which is amazing in itself that you managed to do such an amazing job on your first film like that. I mean, that's
really means a lot.
Because there were many times throughout the process we were like, man, I hope this looks legit.
It's the magic word.
It really is.
No, I've read several reviews that were like, okay, if this is their first film, like I can't wait to see what's next. I saw a lot of that echoed in a lot of the reviews I read. But you're right. The horror community is super supportive. We don't know it, of course, from the film perspective, but from the horror podcast community perspective, like everybody, there's no competition.
Yeah,
everybody's out to boost each other up. It's really great. We've met some of the best friends through doing this podcast over the past 7 years now.
Yeah.
So it's been they're just absolutely wonderful. I just don't have any bad things to say about the horror community.
It's funny too, because that kind of goes into our next question, is because what do you have next? And if you can talk about anything, because I know Sim and I are super excited to see what you're cooking up for your next project.
Well, I do have a couple of scripts. Nothing lined up yet in terms of like, you really have to like really just look at something and be like, this is ready to go. You know what I mean? Because you're about to go on an odyssey where you hear that same line that you love for the 127th time. And when you hear it that 127th time, are you really going to love it as much as you love it right now? You know what I mean? But I have always been, thrillers are my favorite genre. I'm doubtless going to be working in that genre again, 1,000,000%. So, but right now I'm kind of just leaving my options open.
Yeah.
So we only know the only thing we could probably say for sure is that there will be no shepherd's pie in the next
Absolutely.
film. Okay, yeah, all right.
No, Brian, he's
in the future.
He's keeping us in suspense. That's what it is.
That's true.
He's keeping us in
this could be the
suspense.
best long game ever. Like in the movie, it's going to be like shepherd's pie, right? Yeah.
In his last movie, he'll put shepherd's pie again.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to give you guys a chance to tell our listeners where they can find the film, because I definitely want everybody that's listening to this podcast to go seek it out and check it out for themselves.
So it's available. I mean, literally everywhere.
Pretty much anywhere you can rent
Apple
movies.
TV, Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, Xbox, any type of on-demand service. You can rent it basically wherever you rent your movies. And then if you want to just like little culmination in terms of like information where you can get news and updates, our Instagram is @LACEDFilms. Or film
@LACED Film.
Yeah. I always add an S. @LACED Film. And that's where you find any little updates, and also we have some fun behind the scenes stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
I had to follow both you and the film, so it's a whole So we'll definitely keep track of that. And actually, it's fun. Are you gonna? Hopefully, there'll be a Blu-ray release in the future or some kind of physical media because I have a. It's funny. If you noticed him, it's a Monolith Picture is their title, and that's what Tim nicknamed my Blu-ray collection. Because at one point it was on the shelf. He goes, I can't talk to Brian seriously when I see this monolith of Blu-rays behind him.
He used to have a whole wall behind him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was in the
He-
apartment. Now we're kind of in transition. We're not at our
Yeah.
permanent place yet out here, so it's in boxes now, but
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's heartbreaking.
it is. You have no idea how I have like a little tub of what I like of things that I want to have with me, and I keep buying. So now that tub is filling up, and I know my wife's just gonna shake her head when she realizes how filled it up, and I need a second tub now for
Right.
things.
You have 2 monoliths.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you have the physical copies of the movie. I think those are super important.
Oh yeah, I love it. It's just something about the tactile feeling of holding a movie in your hand and looking at the box art and I'm still someone who loves a good magazine, I'm like, yeah, I'll read articles online, but I like to have I'm old school like that. I like books. I like,
I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself, but cinephiles in general, by almost definition, are collectors.
Yeah.
You're collecting these experiences that, you're like siphoning off from all of these really talented, amazing artists, So I feel like the more I find, cinephiles and Blu-ray collectors is just hand in hand. It's a match made in heaven,
Oh yeah.
Well, I hope this doesn't sound creepy, but I'd like to have you in my collection. But
I love it. Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, no, definitely. This is a automatic day one pre-order purchase when this does come out for physical media for sure. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
I really
you,
appreciate it.
guys.
Yeah.
It was so awesome talking with you guys.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah.
I can't wait for our listeners to watch the movie and give us their feedback. And again, if you guys anything you want to promote, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to promote it. If you ever want to come back on the show, you're more than welcome. Really, again, I appreciate you guys taking the time.
You have an open invitation. No shepherd's pie required. Just come on. Just give us a shout, and we'll we'll put you because we actually had a great time talking with you. So this is pretty awesome.
It's a great way to spend the evening. We really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having us on.
All right, Brian. So that was our interview, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I thought that was a fantastic interview to kick off season 8. We have got many more interviews lined up already.
Oh yeah, no, we have so many things coming up, and this one was like kind of came like unexpected. That our good friend who does the PR for those movies sent it to us, and they're like, "Do you want to do this?" We're like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then so it was like such a great surprise that like we got to be able to fit it in, because I'm so glad we were able to not only just see this movie, but to meet Kyle and Dana, who were great.
Yeah, and I'm glad that I'm really happy that we ended 2023 so strong on the interview front, that I'm glad that we didn't like lose momentum. Like we're still like keeping on with the great interviews as we head into season 8. And I hope that continues. So our next feature for the episode is our annual Ghostradamus predictions. Yes. And as you know, we borrowed this from our good friends Mike and EB at Coaster Radio. They have a segment called Ghostradamus.
And we're beating them this year. They're doing theirs like a couple episodes in.
Yeah. So they what they do is they solicit from their listeners, like, come up with predictions for what's going to happen in the theme park industry, and they have a fun little thing where they look back at last year and see who was right and who was wrong. You just kind of make predictions in the style of Nostradamus, the famous French psychic or whatever he was, and we like to do them in these rhyming quatrains, just like Nostradamus did. And we call ours Ghostradamus, and what we're doing is predicting kind of what we forecast for the horror community, film, whatever in general for the coming year. And before we do that, we're going to look back at what we predicted for 2023 and see if we were right or wrong. I thought we did pretty good this year. Now, granted,
we I think we split each. We each was split, which is
good. So I guess Brian. I don't know. Do we want to read each other's, or how do we want to do that? How do we want to parse this out?
Maybe read each other's and we'll alternate. Like we usually tend to alternate things. So
okay, so
you read mine first, and I'll read your first, and we'll review the
success rate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Brian last year said Miss Ortega's success is on fire, and she'll keep growing her fans, as in addition to Scream, another major role she will land. So, I had to look this up and say, did Jenna Ortega get another major role after Brian predicted this? And the answer is a resounding yes. She got a part in Beetlejuice 2, which I think is pretty major.
Yeah, I think so. Well, that's a franchise. I mean, that's going to get a lot of just excitement because, any movie like that was an extremely popular movie. And the fact that it has a sequel so many years later that people were like clamoring for.
I mean, I've heard of Beetlejuice 2 rumors for decades.
Yeah.
Literally decades.
Years.
Yes. So this was very, very exciting. So good job on that one, Brian. That was
I thought she'd get something else, but like that was a surprise. That was kind of exciting that she got.
Now the one Brian's going to read for me, this was kind of a safe bet. This was a pretty safe bet. This was a very.
And it's funny because technically, if you would have looked at, we would have answered this a couple of weeks ago, this might have been not so much of a sure yes now, but now I've been reading that they're trying to fix it and revive it, and I'll go into it anyway in a second. But so Tim's was Scream 5 was a mild success, but Scream 6 comes to play. After box office success, Scream 7's on the way, and now that has been extremely big in the news in the horror community, at least for the last couple of months, of course, because not for the best reasons though. It's because of Melissa Barrera had made a comment, and I mean, honestly, based on the comment when I read it, it looked like it might have been a little bit taken out of context. I don't know how you felt about that. I mean, the problem is you can't say anything these days without it being scrutinized from whatever side of the thing you're on. Yeah. But at the bottom line, I've seen way worse things happen and not this kind of response. Like, look at Ezra Miller. I mean, God, what didn't that guy do? Right?
I know, yeah.
And he still got his movie. He didn't get fired from his movie, and his movie came out, and all the fanfare and people forgot about it. She made some comments. It wasn't the greatest, but I mean, I don't know if it was deserved all the response that she got because of it about being let go from her thing. Well, obviously that's not I'm not the only person that feels that way. There's a lot of people. Including her co-stars, kind of stood up for her and all wanted to exit the project. So now you not only lose Melissa Barrera, which was tough enough to kind of explain that storyline, but it could have been done. But Jenna Ortega decided not to do it. It seemed like she was gonna try and fit it in with her busy schedule. She's got Wednesday 2, season 2, and Beetlejuice 2 was wrapped. She might have been able to fit it in, but she didn't take too kindly of the ousting. And then I think, was it Jasmine Savoy came out and said she doesn't want to come back.
I don't know. It's they're going to have to revamp this whole thing.
Yeah, basically. But so basically, a couple of weeks ago, Scream 7 was pretty much dead. Christopher Landon left, the director. He backed out. Yeah. So I mean, it's everyone was standing up. It's kind of backing Melissa Barrera's ousting. They were not supporting of that. So they were not gonna be part of this film. But now I saw a couple of stories the other day that they're trying to now kind of dial back their feelings towards her, and they had something about they were actually trying to contact Neve Campbell, and they were going to try and convince her to come back.
I had no illusions that they weren't going to make Scream 7 eventually. They're going to make it happen. There's too much money
they're
going to come.
They're going to do it. But you know what? In all honesty, I why not? Why do you have to Granted, I like the current cast going on there too, but why not just make a total other kind of thing? Get really creative with it. You don't need to bring everyone back again. So you know what? They could have taken this and gone. I don't know what it is. Either way, it's going to happen. So Tim is definitely getting this correct. It's just a couple of weeks ago you weren't sure, but now it looks like they're if you see the rumors, they're trying to convince Neve Campbell, and if they get her back, they're going to try and convince her to convince everyone else to come back, because if she comes back, other people come back, and her comment was, "We'll see," and you know how that is. People take, "We'll see." It's so you're saying there's a chance. There's that Jim Carrey meme in everyone's head now.
There's so much money on the line.
I don't think she's coming back.
There's so much money on the line. They'll figure out a way to make this.
Yeah, they'll figure out a way. She's not coming back though. I don't think she'll come back.
I don't necessarily want her back. Honestly.
I don't either.
I don't care about Neve Campbell. I mean, I know that might sound sacrilege to people that are like, "Oh my god!"
No, and I love Nev Campbell.
I love Nev
her
Campbell.
Story's done.
I think her story's done. I think it's a good time to you don't have to bring her back every single time.
No, you should. You know what? She's in that franchise always without being in the franchise.
Tobin Bell, you do have to bring back.
Yes,
but Nev Campbell, you don't.
No, her spirit is in that franchise. No matter what character you put in, it's always in there. However, I did come up with an idea. If they did find a way to kind of like bring her back without bringing her back, she could make a very small appearance, and I have a storyline in my head. But
I'll be right back.
I know, I'll be right back. But yeah, and if I hear one more, maybe it'll be like Stu will come back. I'm like, enough already. Just get original. Just pick something else. You know, you got everyone knows those characters exist. They're always going to be there in your heart. They're going to be in the film every turn.
Pick something
they don't have to actually be in it.
Yeah, like pick something that not every freaking fan form has already written fan fiction about.
Yeah.
But anyway. All right, so Brian's second one here is, while accolades for horror are rare, the buzz still does swirl, as this year will bring for Mrs. Goth at least one for her Pearl. And he was right on the money because Mia Goth won a Fangoria Chainsaw Award.
Now, granted, I will be honest, the spirit of that quatrain was that she was going to get nominated for one of the bigger awards.
Well, bigger, I knew. Yeah, and I knew that, but I decided to give this to you. Anyway.
But granted, yes, to us, Fangoria Chainsaw Awards are the awards I really care about these days.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, look at that. I started off 2 for 2.
2 for 2.
I could have. I don't think one of us will ever get the full 4, but
I made a little bit. I had a couple safe predictions in mind, but I did have some that were out there too. So I decided. Now my Coastradamus, because I've submitted those. Those were way out there, except for I think I had one safe pick and 2 way out there's for that one.
I know. I like to throw out like one way out there one.
You gotta have it. There's the fun because then then if it does come true, you look like a freaking mastermind.
Yeah, and they're like, wow, he knows his horror, man. Okay, so this one I really thought you were gonna get, in all honesty, but
I did too.
Because this one seemed like right in a nice safe one, but still just challenging enough. But
yeah,
and it was with interest renewed in Insidious and a sequel to The Nun. It's announced that Annabelle returns for more malicious fun. And I thought I heard a rumor, but I looked. It wasn't announced anywhere.
No, and I think we're way overdue for another Annabelle movie.
We are, yeah.
Which the third, my favorite Annabelle is still number 2. It's just still my favorite. 3 was not bad, but 2 is definitely still my favorite. But I would love to see another Annabelle movie come out.
Yeah, they were. You know, they even though I know it's not like the real Annabelle doll, what it looks like, but they wouldn't have. You can't make a movie off of that one. Yeah,
it's its own thing. Yeah, there's
maybe if we ever make it to Vegas together, Tim, we'll have to go visit Zach Baggins.
I would. I totally.
He's got Annabelle there, right? He's got the original now.
Oh, I don't know.
I thought he has it on loan there from the Warrens estate.
I don't care. I'd love to go to that. I would.
Yeah,
I would.
Got to sign a waiver though.
I'd sign whatever Zach Baggins wanted me to. I would so cheese out of that place. All right, so I'd be totally all in on that. I would go.
Oh, you would, yeah. We'd have to like calm Tim down.
Yes. So Brian's third here is, after the unpopular remake, many thought the franchise was complete. In 2023, it will be announced a return to Elm Street. Nope.
I know,
no
but
return to Elm Street.
there was a buzz they were talking about, like with little teases and hints, and I thought I was going to get that one, and no. But now I saw something last week again. It's all the buzz is building again that they might announce something, but I said 2023. It's as clear as can be. I do not get that one correct.
Nope.
The next one for Tim says, with Leatherface Jason and soon Michael Myers making their way to board game fame, it's time for another major horror icon to feature in a game. And Tim got that one right, because Child's Play has a game coming, and Scream, which I actually bought. I got it on sale for like $7 at Target earlier over the summer.
Yeah.
I haven't played it yet, but it looks really cool. I gotta save it for like when we see each other or something. But
yeah, that was a safe pick. Pretty safe.
It was safe. But But and it's funny. I told you I finally bought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like the other one, like the
Yeah,
one.
I do want to
I
play
just need
that
to order
one.
the Halloween one this month from Trick or Treat Studios.
Yeah.
So I want to get the miniatures with it. Oh, and our miniatures are shipping for Texas Chainsaw, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think Cone sent us something on that.
Okay, our last one here from Ryan was, while the oh man, he is so wrong on this one. Like,
I know.
terribly wrong. While the massacre will come on game systems galore, the Texas Chainsaw video game will be delayed until 2024.
Now, in defense of this one, I know I'm wrong, and I'm not going to argue my way out of it, but based on the history of that company and their delays,
Yeah.
it wasn't that. I should have been right.
It seemed like a safe pick. Yeah, it actually
It
did
did.
seem like a safe pick. But of course, Texas Chainsaw, and it's a great game. It
is a fun game. It's
fun.
hard.
It's very hard.
It's easy to pick up like Friday the 13th. It's more like if you took Friday the 13th and kind of made it closer to Dead by Daylight a little bit, where it's like you got to really kind of move. You can't like Friday the 13th, I feel like it's much more expansive and you can hide and you can really move around. This one is a lot harder because like you move around, you hit something and then
Yeah, matches are fast. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot more. Yeah, it's a lot faster game.
But we got to get back to playing it. We played it when it first started. We really didn't get back because part of it, I think, is because Cone needs to upgrade his Xbox because it wasn't working and the thing. We need to get Emily somehow to get on.
Yeah, because they are coming out with like, if not already, they had new maps coming, new characters coming. Yeah.
I think the new what was the new character was like someone we knew like that like posted about how they were a new voice in the game. Well, I know Christina Klebe, who we met, was in did a voice. I think she played like Sissy, right?
Yeah.
So that's good. I figured I had to guess that one just because of remember it was getting delayed. It was supposed to be, it already did get delayed was what it was. So I'm like, you know what? This company and their history, I could totally see them scrapping it and putting it like first quarter 2024. But I was wrong.
But now the next one we have to look forward.
Media.
The next one we have to look forward to is the Killer Clowns one.
Yeah,
that one's coming out soon. Yeah,
I really hope they do a really good Halloween one at some point, but we'll see.
That would be cool. Yeah,
like remember the fake one that they came out with? How cool that looked.
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer that should have made it. But anyway, okay. Tim's final one is his Cabinet of Curiosities was a hit, yet Del Toro hungers for much more. Horror fans will be overjoyed with what Lovecraftian tale Guillermo has in store.
Yeah, this was a no. He did not. He doesn't even have anything on the books, but he does have a Frankenstein movie coming out, which I think I'm really excited about. So
yes,
I mean I'm fine with that. If he's not going to delve into Lovecraft, if he just keeps doing takes on Universal monsters, I'm okay with that. So that was that was my long shot. That was my long shot, but it didn't pan out. But we have to get to our 2024 predictions. Yes. Again, like I said, I was a couple of these are pretty safe, and I think a couple of them are. I don't know. You have to look at this too. If you take it in the spirit of the actual Nostradamus, he was pretty vague at times. Oh, he left it very open ended, so you kind of have to do that yourself, so you can give yourself some wiggle room to try to. I kind of did that this year.
Yeah, and remember, do you remember one of the things that Nostradamus said? I used to be like obsessed with him because he gave me nightmares with that Orson Welles documentary.
Oh my God, the Orson Welles one was that was great.
That was like nightmare fuel for me as a kid because I was afraid of nuclear war. And remember, he had that sequence where it showed the guy like pushing the buttons, like, from the middle, and you just saw his back, and he's like, rah, rah, rah. But yeah, like. He said, I followed up on Nostradamus, and I remember reading it in one of the books on him where they said one of his early predictions, only one person would ever translate his predictions correctly. And as we know, millions of people have taken interpretations of what he says and twist it. You can make anything that vague twist into the narrative you want it to. And also, if you notice, I feel like every time something happens, they like pop up with another quatrain that he had, and I'm like, I never heard this one. I thought I read all of his quatrains.
Yeah, like you're like backfilling these things.
Yeah, so I don't even know. Yeah, so at this point already, it's so jaded. But I always thought of a cool movie would be for like a Nostradamus movie about where it showed how someone traveled back in time to tell him all these things and
that would be cool.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like any other time travel movie, really. But like specifically, if you put him in it, it made.
But then you find out the reason he wrote them is because the person traveled back in the first place to tell him what was going to happen.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. So that's what I was kind of. But it's kind of been done with other things. It's just,
true. Yeah. Okay, so
but-
these I would think we read our own. That way we can explain
Yeah.
them afterwards. Okay,
Yes,
so I'll let you go first, Brian.
Okay, so my first one is, and you'll call us biased all you want, I don't care. But anyway, it says, okay, so my first one is, with 8 Eyes a festival favorite, and for viewers, it's truly a treat. This year's Chainsaws will be generous, including a nom for Miss Sweet. So, of course, that we've heard us talk about the amazing film 8 Eyes, which our good friend Emily Sweet starred in, and it got like rave review after rave review. It's not available yet for. I think it's still hitting some festivals currently. I think there's some, but it was a big thing. So when it's released, I think more people will get to it. But it did release last year, so it should be eligible for the Chainsaws. So and I remember I predicted that when they were on the episode that I think all 3 of the main stars of that deserve a Chainsaw award. But they can only give out so many, right?
Yeah.
But I think Emily did an amazing job in that. And I think the movie itself should be rewarded with some things too.
I really can't wait for it to get wider release because I really want to.
Yeah.
I really want to. If it blew up that much on the festival circuit, I feel like it has to blow up that big,
Yeah,
through the general horror community.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what they're waiting for. Is it going to come out to theaters? Is it going to come on stream? We don't know any of those details yet. But hopefully it will come out so everyone. Because I know Jeff Whitmire's like literally like chomping at the bit to see this.
Yeah,
It's killing him that he can't see it yet after reading all the reviews. So hopefully, it'll be out. And that's my prediction with that. It's tough because Chainsaws, especially the acting categories. There's a lot of people that they put
and
in
as we've said
but
before,
I did say nomination. I didn't.
Yeah, you didn't say because
I did say she should, but at bare minimum, be nominated for this.
Yeah,
So-
like I've pointed out many times before, the Fangoria Awards, because they're voted on by the community, a lot of times the most popular or the most widely available gets the win kind of thing.
But that's got. I think Fangoria should do something about that personally, because the horror community itself, especially the ones that are that really are into Shudder, and they see a lot of the more the lesser mainstream films, and so those deserve to be rewarded in its own kind of thing. And I thought that would be the Chainsaws, but the Chainsaws fall victim to what other awards do sometimes. They just it's like they have this kind of I don't know.
It's what, when you open up the voting to the just wider internet, it's like anybody that's doesn't watch horror movies or watches one a year can vote on it and skew the results. So it ends up being a popularity contest.
Or somehow include the maybe include it what's that one? The Rondo Awards, the one where it's you basically the fans will actually vote for the nominees them also kind of thing. I think the one. That's what they should have done. I mean, I know that's a monumental task, but I mean, you know what? It's take it in. You have a form to fill out. What's your favorite acting? Boom, put it in a database. Let it calculate, and whatever the top nominees are, those are the ones that go to the finals.
Yeah, I still don't understand exactly how they pick all that stuff.
I know. I'd love to find that out. And maybe we should reach out to Fangoria one day. See, have a guest on as it's closer towards it. Maybe we can get a representative. From
we need that. We need the inside scoop.
Yeah.
So my first one is I don't know, this could be a safe pick. It could also not be a safe pick. Mine is Terrifier 2 was a box office champ, but Damien didn't rest. Terrifier 3 brings a higher return, smashing Part 2's success. So to me, for this one to win, Terrifier 3 has to bring in more money than Terrifier 2. Which
I think it's almost guaranteed because I think it's going to get a full release. Remember, Terrifier 2 got a very weird release.
True, yeah, and I think Terrifier 2, I think a lot of people didn't even know about Terrifier 1 until Terrifier 2 came out.
The hardcore fans did, but
the mainstream. I think this is the one that brings Art the Clown fully, complete franchise star type thing. So, yeah, probably a safe pick, but I don't know, kind of went with it.
Well, and it's going to be even safer because I'm not going to pull one of these. Well, due to box office inflation and a number of screens, we're going to calculate. No, if Tim gets the math total right, that's it.
And I'm telling you, part of that was not just a safe pick. It was part of me just hoping that that's the case because I want it. I want it to be a super success.
And the fact that it's a Christmas,
oh my gosh, I can't believe how many people were upset about that. I think that was the best news of the whole thing, that it was a Christmas movie.
I mean, the first two were Halloween time, so why are you not? It's good that you expand to a different.
It just opens up the whole canvas of what you could do with Art the Clown at Christmas. Oh my god!
Yeah, I mean, and the trailer, the teaser for it was
so good. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. You remember, and the whole point about the Terrifier series is they went, they went places where other movies didn't go. They did the first one was just kind of was it definitely had the more indie feel, but it still did a lot more things. It broke a lot of expectations. The whole part, the polarizing use of the gun. It's a slasher. Why do you use a gun? Well, because Damien Leone wrote it the way he wanted to write it. Let him write the way he wants. Why does he have to fall in under your guidelines?
Yeah, no.
So
horror fans are always talking about how they, there's nothing unique out there anymore, and then you put something unique, and then they complain about that. Then
well, wait a minute, it broke a rule. What rule? There's no rule. And then so the second one he did is he took a slasher and made it a blockbuster type slasher.
Yeah,
over 2 hours,
ridiculous,
almost 2.5 hours, and
over
he made
the top.
this opus of a slasher film, and he went had scenes where everyone was still talking about it, and it had it had everything.
I can't wait to see how he tops it.
I know that. I'm very curious. And granted, remember, I've gone on record just saying I still overall, it's as much as I love the second one. There's something about the first one that's still I thought it was just a little more in terms of horror, a little more frightening because it was more enclosed space.
Yeah,
kind of a thing. This one was a lot bigger, but still great, but just in a different way. But yeah, so I'm really looking for it, and the fact that we don't have to wait as long, which is great. Remember, Terrifier 2 got pushed back because of the pandemic and everything.
Oh, it was a long wait for that one.
Long wait for that. This one we've have already. We could say it's this year.
Yeah.
It's months away now. So it's great. I think you're gonna nail that one though. I think that was it's a safe bet, but not ridiculously safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's a bit of a gamble because it's because I know it got pushed back in filming, but here's my one. It says, with the series announced with excitement for a franchise we all hold so dear, Crystal Lake will be coming to Peacock and will debut by the end of the year. Now that's a push because I think they're starting to film it early summer.
Yeah, that was
spring.
That one could be a push. Yeah.
It could, but I mean, remember, it's a TV show. It's not a film. A lot easier to produce TV show episodes. And you might be able to get it out by Halloween or the December, depending on how much they want to rush it. Because think about it, if it's done, do you really want to wait a whole nother year for it? They want to wait a whole nother summer?
Yeah.
If it's ready to go, when you need new content, where content is
especially with streaming services, you can get stuff out quick. Super quick turnaround.
So that's my prediction. I think it's gonna just make it under the wire, maybe November, December. But
okay, this was my reach. I consider this my reach. You might not think it's a reach, but to me it was. Demeter wasn't box office gold, but the thirst for vampires doesn't abate. Nosferatu's success is all but assured, and a new Dracula film hits the 25 slate. So but
now, what do you consider that? Do you consider just a straight to streaming Dracula movie? Because that could be.
No, I'm talking about when I say I want to clarify a theatrical big Dracula film, not like a Tubi.
Well, there was rumors. Remember that they're doing a Renfield sequel, so.
I don't know. I wouldn't.
Does that count?
No,
that doesn't count as Dracula.
I wouldn't count that as Dracula. No, I'm not talking about I wanted to go out on a limb for this one. And
okay, so you want hardcore,
Dracula. a straight horror movie. Renfield, I think, is a comedy. It's a sequel to something that's already out. And I know Nosferatu's coming out, but I'm talking something completely we haven't heard of yet. A new Dracula movie gets announced for 2025. That's it gets announced this year. That's my prediction.
Well, they are starting to revisit those. They're trying to reinvigorate those Universal properties again.
And that's kind of what I had in my mind.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Aren't they doing the werewolf? Right, Lee Whannell is doing a werewolf.
Yeah, I think they're doing a werewolf one. I think they're definitely doing the Frankenstein we already mentioned.
Yeah.
So
So,
It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it's a little bit of a push because it hasn't been announced yet.
And you know what? Universal has got a nice, shiny new theme park open up in
Well,
25, which a whole land to monsters.
That was in the back of my mind too.
Yeah,
sure.
People may not think that that's just like a random throw out, but I think you put some deep thought into this one. There's a lot of things that will back up your prediction for that.
Yeah, but it's not a given.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah, it's not a given.
Okay, so here, this one, I think I say something like this every year. But, well, last year I didn't, obviously, but it says, with our podcast that's always evolving, and listeners surely will revel, because in this upcoming season, we'll get a guest that's at a true epic level. So now, granted, I don't want to diminish any guests we have. I think I pretty much love all the guests.
All our guests are pretty epic, yeah.
Yeah, but when I mean like epic level, I'm talking about like a Stephen King, like someone like a Barbara Crampton,
somebody like that you would not typically see on like a very small indie podcast.
Yes, which we are. We're like I mean, we've had some. I mean, in all honesty, we've had some guests, some great guests that I never thought we'd ever have some of their level too. And we've had all sorts of guests, and I love every one of them because they all have some kind of like, there's always a great reason to have them come on. Either they're talking about a great project, or just someone we've met in the like that does something cool that we love to talk about. So I'm not trying to, by saying that, I'm not diminishing any guest that we've had. I want to reiterate that as many times as I can. But, there are also, we know, like, okay, like, you're looking at a first-time author versus Stephen King. Okay, you're not going to hold them at the same level.
Yeah, exactly. So,
nothing against that first-time author who may have wrote one of the best books you've ever read in your life, but Stephen
King
recognition. Is like a household name.
Yeah, exactly. Name recognition.
Like if we had Sam Raimi on, okay, that's like epic level,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hope that one comes true for sure.
Yes.
So my third one here is a Ghostbusters sequel arrives this March, I should say. I had that June. Ghostbusters sequel arrives this March, and Beetlejuice 2 is near. Watch for another surprise 80s classic to get a requel announced this year. This is my vague attempt.
It's vague, but I think it's a excellent prediction based on the trends of things.
Yeah, I just felt like, Beetlejuice 2 is big. I've been waiting for that movie since I was a teenager.
Me too.
Literally.
Like, I think right after I saw Beetlejuice.
Literally, I've been waiting for that movie since I was a teenager, and I'm approaching 50 now. So I think it's going to be this one. I really hope it's a surprise. I'm not talking about, and obviously it's got to be a little bit horror adjacent. Like, I mean, if they announce like Beverly Hills Cop. They did announce a Beverly Hills Cop series. Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah. But, something like that.
Yeah, it's got to be horror.
It's got to be something horror.
I think people understand that the spirit.
In the spirit of it, yeah. So, like, if they come out with, like, a, Coming to
so
America 3
like if they came out with, like, Gremlins 3 or something.
Yeah, like, it's got to be something big like that. Like, oh, my God, they're making Gremlins 3. Like, that. It's got to be something huge. And it's, like, I said requel. I kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit more even. But we'll see what happens. I'm hoping for some.
Well, I mean, obviously, requel is like, I mean, even when like in the self-satiring Scream franchise, when they called it a requel, it's still a sequel because it's still part of the same storyline.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah. So I think we'll be very loose on your judging on that one. I mean,
yes.
The term requel is not a real word.
Yeah, true.
So it's like we made it up. The horror community made it up. Okay. Okay. So the final one. This one's kind of like, I think, pretty much a gimme. It's just not that I'm gonna definitely get it right this year, but it's definitely something that's gonna happen. So I threw it out there that maybe it'll happen this year, and it's with horror films. There's always a sequel, and some even have a franchise. And just when you thought he was done, Michael Myers will once again rise. And now, again, within the spirit of it, I don't know if you, and this is up to you. I mean, I think any kind of actual project with him in it, even if it's a Halloween series, but if he's in it, he has to be in it. It can't be the Halloween anthology series are rumored where he's not really in it.
Yeah.
This has to be him in it. And I mean, the franchise obviously is never going away. I think it'll always come back. Obviously the David Gordon Green one is done. There was no stories from that could ever continue. Red Tim would not allow it either way. But
I think this would be a safe pick if there was an open-ended time limit, obviously. But the fact that you're calling it, having to announce it this year, I think puts us in a risky category.
I mean, I granted that gives me 300 plus days for them to come up with and remember, it just has to be announced.
It just has to be announced, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
still,
I know it. I
still
don't say
think
it
it's
that way,
risky.
but it doesn't. Obviously, I know I'm not going to predict that all of a sudden they're going to announce and film an entire Halloween movie in the same year. There's like, that's why these things are, there's a little bit of kind of like the spirit of the quatrain involved in these.
All right, so my last one, again, this one sounds like a gimme. I don't think it necessarily is because it hasn't been announced yet, to my knowledge. So this is about Final Girl. Final Girl Waves 1 and 2 were a smash success, and Wave 3 brought fans even more. Before the end of the year is up, Van Ryder Games announces Wave 4. So
I think they'll have to, and honestly,
I think they will. Now, I will say Wave 3 is currently under late pledge, so you can actually late pledge Wave 3. So it's like getting.
I might have to do that because I'm gonna buy it eventually. Now that you got me, I even played one round yet.
I know. Well, I've thought about it because with the late pledge, you can get the big box that has everything in it. But
how much is it? 170?
It's
80 or something.
Yeah, about 180, I think. Which you're going to spend $100 easy on just the 5 modules by themselves.
Well, yeah, and the 5 modules, and you get that box, which also has the other. Basically, now I have 2 game mats because I didn't realize when I bought the empty box just to store the games, it comes with a couple of things in it, including the game. So now I have 2 game mats. But probably for me, that's pretty good because I'll probably damage one. I'll spill something on it. But yeah, and I even bought that like extra Paula card.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Did you watch
$5?
Did you watch the playthrough she did where she played herself?
Yeah,
that was great.
She's really funny.
Yeah.
She's like a new Becca Scott kind of person. I like them. But yeah, I'm gonna have to play it though. I have all the things, but I think you'll get this one. I think by the end of the year, this is a year away now for them to. Season 3 is gonna be great.
That was my.
It's just a matter of what they come up with. I would love. I was gonna tell you this off the air, but I might as well tell you on the air because when do we keep secrets, right? Mm-hmm. I think we need to contact the creators of this game and have them come on because I mean they obviously you're a huge fan. I have yet to play it, but by the time I'm planning to play it like any day now, I just haven't had a chance. You need kind of like a big table for it too.
You do
like holiday stuff on tables, but I think we should try and reach out and try and get them on. That would be cool. To get the creators on because I think they'd have a really fun conversation in there.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Maybe we'll get a car like a villains named after us, like 2 crazy podcasters. Do they have a villain team out there? Any of the villains? Right? It's always one villain, right?
I'm trying to think if any of them are. I know
we could be a first.
Well, I know Geppetto has like minions and stuff that he. But I don't think there's any like Scream that are like 2 killer type thing. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's our predictions. Of course, this time in 2025, we'll be looking back at these and asking ourselves if any of those came through. Next episode, we are going to have our 2024 preview. I know it's coming out a little late because we were kind of a little bit delayed on getting started on season 8. But we're going to run down. I know in past years we've done books and games and blah, 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 and comic books and everything. And it just got a little bit too bloated. So we're going to just focus on the movies this year that are coming out. So next episode will be like a complete rundown of the horror movies we know about that are coming out in 2024. And obviously there's going to be tons that become like hidden gems that we never knew were coming, that were more indie. A lot of these are like big budget type things. But I think that's going to be a great episode because I'm really looking forward to talking about some of these that are coming out.
I think it's definitely going to be something where we didn't want to rush it. So we need to to get it out. And and the other stuff, I feel like those episodes when we have the books and all the little things in there, it slogs on because a lot of the stuff tends to get delayed. It's not even that, but the movie and TV shows are usually pretty accurate. Yeah. And that's really more important, know, and we talk about the games and stuff like that as they come out anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Probably. Yeah. Season 8, we gotta refocus on, streamlining some of this stuff. So even though this episode's like gone long.
I know. Like we already said, we'll do it in a half hour, but now it's 11 o'clock for poor Tim. But
yeah, so I got again, thanks, to Kyle and Dana for coming on.
Yes, they were so awesome.
And we encourage you guys to go out and check out Laced. Again, available everywhere on VOD. And let us know what you think about it. And we will see you back here next week. See ya!